What it do, flight crew? FTC. Flight team stand up! We have the scary truth about the NBA player that disappeared. On this Friday, I still ain't sober. It's October. You guys know how I'm coming, man. You know what I'm saying? Hey, man, you know what I'm saying? You guys see the title. Looks interesting. 30-minute video. It's been a minute since we, you know what I'm saying, had a long video. It was actually on a recommended. And I was like, I just needed to turn the cameras on. It's looking interesting. Check it out.
Throughout NBA history, there has been a common misconception that a majority of NBA players have had it easy. However, that is simply not true. Despite the enormous potential for fame and reward, the life of a professional NBA player is quite difficult. Beyond the possibility of a large bank account is a realm of tremendous sacrifice and hard work that rarely pays off. While it is true that there is a history of players who have managed to reach the top, it is more common for athletes to hit rock bottom and become victims of all the personal struggles one can think of. As usual as these stories are, rarely do we hear of a professional athlete whose troubles led him to pay the ultimate sacrifice, his life. Bison Dele was just such an athlete. He was once an outstanding NBA player, but unfortunately for him, something terrible happened.
What happened? It's almost like a movie we're watching, you know what I'm saying? Get to watch it with FTC. Get your popcorn, my bad. Sorry, I usually tell y'all to get snacks and stuff before, but I mean, if you've seen the amount of minutes on it, if you didn't get snacks previously, I don't know what to tell you. I don't have any snacks, so anybody make a 7-Eleven run, you know what I'm saying? Let me get a honey bun. Shit. What else? I need that Minute Maid lemonade, or if they don't have that, I like that Tampico juice. You know the juice I'm talking about? It's called like Tampico juice or some shit like that. You know, yeah, nothing else. I like the grandma's cookies too, but I'm feeling the honey bun today. You know what I'm saying? Honey buns be like hitting like on and off for me. You know what I'm saying? I have a weird love and hate relationship with honey buns. Like one week I'll mess with them so heavy, and the next week I'll just like get that out of my face. Anyway, last time pause the video.
This Jordan arriving about 2 hours ago. He is suffering from flu-like symptoms. Made his way onto the court just moments ago. And as you see right here, looking a bit shaky. He was up all last night, spent all day in bed, did not eat at all, did not go to the shootout.
The date is June 13th, 1997. The Chicago Bulls have just won the NBA championship, their 5th in just 7 years. Following an epic series against the Utah Jazz that included 2 last-second game winners and a remarkable flu-ridden performance in Game 5 by Michael Jordan, the team gathers together to celebrate.
Bro, doesn't he coach the Warriors right now?
24,000 fans. In the midst of it all is Jordan, a look of accomplishment on his face. Next to him, Scottie Pippen. To his left is Coach Phil Jackson, bushy-haired and bearded. But flash back to the day of the game itself, and take notice of the player closest to Jordan, the one standing just to his right. That is Brian Williams, the Chicago Bulls' 6', 10" forward. This was his first NBA title, but just from looking at him, you would never know. After all, during what should have been the highlight of his professional career, the 28-year-old looked distant, unsmiling, almost ghostly. Take a closer look, and you begin to notice that behind those pale green eyes lies a disturbing story of love, lies, and unfortunately, loss. Brian Carson Williams was born in Fresno, California on April 6, 1969. Raised to parents Patricia Phillips and Eugene Williams, Brian was the second and youngest son behind his brother, Kevin Williams. Growing up, the two brothers were destined to have successful careers. After all, their father, Eugene, was a former soul singer for the Platters, a well-known American vocal group formed back in 1952. In 1970, the R&B group discovered Eugene at a nightclub, and so the family would end up traveling the world with him. Despite this, early on in his childhood, it was clear that the family bond was headed towards a disastrous end. This fortune would come to fruition in 1970, when his father and mother would divorce, leaving the children with no father figure. Their mother would eventually remarry. However, by the time Brian was in the 7th grade, that marriage would end as well. Growing up, Brian attended St. Monica Catholic High School in Santa Monica, California. It was here where the teenager excelled as a track runner and athletic standout. However, at the time there was little doubt that the 15-year-old would develop into a premier basketball star. In fact, he didn't try organized basketball until the 10th grade, when an unexpected growth spurt would force him to pursue a career in the sport. Unlike most future NBA players, he found no interest in. Regardless of his dislike for the game, the left-handed forward played with surprising grace on the court. He could run the floor like a point guard and toss in a baseline jump hook with buttery smoothness. He glided, swooped, was an excellent outlet passer and trailer on the break. At times, he could even demonstrate his athletic abilities. He was the perfect blueprint, and he was only getting better every
Brian, you
year.
had a pretty good game tonight, 20 points, and this team seems like you guys are coming on real strong now towards the end of the season, aren't you?
Yes, we are. At the beginning of the year, we weren't doing so well. We
had media coverage like that back in the day too.
Following Santa Monica, Brian would spend his freshman year at the University of Maryland, where as a 6'9" forward, he began playing for the Maryland Terrapins while receiving Rookie of the Year honors.
Nice.
Not before long, he would transfer to the University of Arizona. It was here in Tucson where he first flourished, averaging 10.6 points, 5.7 rebounds, and 0.4 assists in his first season, and 14 points, 7.8 rebounds, and 0.6 assists in his second. All in all, Brian's talents on the hardwood floors were clearly there. In the first 5 years of his career, he had been a McDonald's All-American, a standout for the Maryland Terrapins, and an All-American honorable mention at Arizona. So following 2 successful years with the Wildcats, 21-year-old Brian Williams entered the 1991 NBA Draft, where he would be selected as the 10th overall pick in the first round by the Orlando Magic.
With the 10th pick in the 1991 NBA Draft, the Orlando Magic selects Brian Williams from the University of Arizona. Brian Williams, 6'9½", 240 pounds, played his high school basketball in Santa Monica, California. He's 22 years old, and his father, as you pointed out to me today, is also famous former member of the Platters.
Right, well, you know, he started out at Maryland, and he was successful early. What you must see from him is consistency. He has a very soft shot, a low power game, plays with a great deal of emotion.
After years of hard work and dedication, he finally made it to the NBA. However, unlike most players, making it to the NBA was not the best day of his life. In fact, it was his worst. After all, the 6'11", 260-pound forward never showed a sustained passion for basketball.
Rookie in Orlando. I know you're glad to be in the warm weather. You're starting the roster. What's your feeling of going to the Magic?
I have a really good feeling about the Orlando Magic because I had a chance to go down there and work out with the team and the staff and the management, the owners, and you know, they're really good people and a good bunch of guys they're playing with, and you know, they look like they have a focus and direction. So they're on their way up. But I'm glad to be a part of that.
Although Brian excelled early on in his career with Orlando, his desire never matched the efforts needed to truly excel. To top this off, his success on the court was backlit by troubles off it. During the 1992-93 season with the Magic, Williams only played in 21 games. That same season, he was diagnosed with clinical depression in what would go on to become one of the first publicized instances of mental health issues in an NBA player. As Williams battled on the hardwood floors, night in and night out, his depression slowly began taking a toll on him. But how? At first, he was unpredictable at practices, once passing out while guarding teammate Shaquille O'Neal in a 5-on-5 drill. Then, one night, he crashed his car into a pole and even admitted to surviving an overdose when he swallowed 15 sleeping pills, a failed attempt at taking his own life. His mother would also indicate there may have been a second attempt. Brian.
That's why, like, make sure you guys always make sure you get the mental health straight. You know what I'm saying? Like, it don't matter how much, you know what I'm saying, money you can be making. Just make sure you always take the time, you know what I'm saying, to give yourself proper, you know what I'm saying, breaks. Talk to anybody if you feel that need to vent, you know. And that's just like, even if you don't feel like, you know, wanting to open up, you know, try it at least. You know what I'm saying? You never know until you try. You know what I'm saying? That's really sad, like, right off the start. Because, you know, they even said, like, when he got drafted, they said that it was, like, his worst days. And usually it's supposed to be your best day, you know what I'm saying? You get drafted, so... Man, that's kind of sad, man.
Williams would later claim that all of his mental health related issues stemmed from his unhappiness in Orlando. He would ultimately be placed on the injured reserve list after being diagnosed with clinical depression.
So I said he was unhappy in Orlando.
In the 1993 season, after cutting ties with the Orlando Magic, Williams decided to join the Denver Nuggets, where he would perform alongside fellow teammates and NBA legends Dikembe Mutombo and Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. Here he played a career-high 8 games, averaging 8 points per game. Then, in 1995, following 2 seasons with the team, Williams joined the LA Clippers, playing in 65 games while averaging 15.8 points per game. After contract disputes denied him from resigning with the Clippers, he nearly sat out the rest of the season. That was until the Chicago Bulls, along with their head coach, Phil Jackson, came calling. Entering the 1997 season, the Bulls were the defending NBA champions. With Michael Jordan back from his brief retirement and the team winning 72 games the season prior, the franchise decided to sign Brian as a free agent 9 games prior to the conclusion of the regular season. As soon as he arrived, Michael Jordan pushed Williams to get in shape, maximize his talent, and truly care about the game, a challenge he would ultimately live up to. Eventually, Brian fit in perfectly with the new roster. After a surprising defeat at home in Game 2 of the Eastern Conference semifinals against the Atlanta Hawks, Williams was given extended playing time off the bench. This move would undoubtedly prove to be a brilliant one, as he delivered outstanding performances the rest of the series, including 14 points in a Game 3 matchup and a double-double with 12 points and 10 rebounds in a series-clinching Game 5. Then on June 13, 1997, in a blockbuster NBA Finals matchup against the rival Utah Jazz, Brian would continue to play a key role in the Bulls' championship run, as he would go on to help the franchise capture their 5th NBA title in 7 years.
Cannot ever hesitate.
Damn.
Foster, way off.
Watch your face.
And
Terrific job by Brian Williams, who fumbled that rebound, but out of the corner of his eye, knew that Scottie Pippen.
Chicago lead.
Post up Scottie, and then for no reason they double team Scottie down low and leaving Michael Jordan. He knocks down this 3, gives him the huge lead, and then the total exhaustion on the bench. Michael Jordan sucking air, got the back massage from Scottie Pippen.
2/10 of a second remaining. The inbounds, and the Chicago Bulls have defeated the Utah Jazz.
Overall, during his time with the Chicago Bulls, Brian was an outstanding player with unlimited potential. To this day, many family and friends of the NBA star claim that this was the only time he was truly happy in the league.
Nice.
How would you like to be a member of the Chicago Bulls for only a month? And earn yourself a position to play in the championships and win a world championship ring?
That's nice.
Well, I'll tell you what. That's exactly what Brian Williams did.
Yeah.
This means the world to me. I can't thank you all enough for embracing me, the coaches, the players, the whole organization. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Regardless,
seems like a really
after
cool
just
guy.
one short season, he was released from the team. Although he was viewed as an incredible talent, Brian still suffered from a few deficiencies in the paint. Not to mention his unusual behavior had become beyond mystifying. This theory would be proven when Williams was once caught traumatizing his teammates by attempting to pull the emergency exit hatch of the team's charter jet while it was still 30,000 feet in the air.
Whoa.
One pull of the latch, and the entire franchise would have met their untimely death.
Nah, fam, he got it,
Williams
bro.
was viewed as a liability, both
Yeah,
on
I feel
and
it.
off
Okay,
the
now I
court.
see why. Okay,
Ultimately,
yeah, you
he
had
would
to
find
release
another
him.
home when he signed a massive 7-year.
Whoa, bro, bro, I don't even want to think about that shit, bro. What the fuck?
$50 million deal with the Detroit Pistons. Aside from the fact that he had never really established himself as a consistent asset, it was extremely odd that the organization was willing to offer him more money than any other player in their franchise's history. Regardless, as a starting center for the 1998 Detroit Pistons, Williams averaged 16.2 points and 8.9 rebounds. That same year, he would officially change his name to Bison Dele in honor of his Cherokee and African ancestry. Trailing this, after playing in just 49 games in the 1998 NBA lockout season, and with his statistics swiftly plunging, Brian Williams, now known as Bison Dele, made a baffling decision. Despite his relatively young age and healthy amount of remaining dollars on his contract, the 30-year-old, while still in the prime of his career, shocked the NBA world with the announcement of his sudden retirement. It made no sense. At the time, he had been the Pistons' highest paid player with more than $36 million and 5 years outstanding on his contract. No one could believe it. After all, who in their right mind walks away from $36 million? Despite criticism from friends and family, after 2 relatively productive years for the franchise, Bison Dele made the mysterious retirement from the game official. No amount of money could bring stability to his life. In the end, despite all of his on-court accomplishments, Williams would slowly begin to develop an everlasting desiring for a different kind of spotlight. It seemed well-defined that his vision of success stretched further away from the NBA arenas. Since his arrival into the NBA, up until his retirement 8 years later, Dele was primarily regarded as a bizarre individual. He wasn't an NBA All-Star, but he was an outstanding rebounder, shot blocker, and a solid role player who had career averages of 11 points and 6 rebounds per game. However, unlike most professional basketball players who had their careers cut short due to major injuries or a lack of skills, Bison retired so that he could become a world traveler, seeking the meaning of life. It was clear to many that basketball just didn't bring Brian the happiness he was searching for. Yet, despite his mental...
I mean, sometimes it happens like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can... It's an example of just always want to make sure you focus on doing things that you really want to do, and not just because, you know, it makes a lot of money or because it, you know what I'm saying? Basically because it makes, you know, it makes a lot of, just really find like the happiness. You know what I'm saying? You can just tell he probably didn't even ever wanted to play basketball or whatever, but because of the situation where he had that crazy, you know what I'm saying, historical type of growth spurt during the time of, you know, players being shorter than, you know, their average position, what they are nowadays, it was just like a give me, like, you know what I'm saying, like a lotto pick, like right in your hands for you to just play basketball, but that's probably not what he really wanted to do.
Struggles, Williams remained in the league. So after he had earned enough money, it had finally allowed him to walk away from it. In the end, Dele's heart was never into the sport of basketball, but rather all the luxuries it brought with it. It was during this time that the public would begin to take notice of the puzzling nature of this extraordinarily skilled big man. Following his retirement, Dele began pursuing his true desires. At first, he spent several months in Beirut. Then he went to Europe, followed by Indonesia and India. He DJ'd at nightclubs, met with the Dalai Lama, jet skied in the Mediterranean, ran with the bulls in Spain, rode camels in Cairo, glanced at the beautiful sunsets of Havana, and roamed the bazaars of Istanbul. He played the saxophone, violin, trumpet, and even earned a pilot's license. This was the life Dele had dreamed of, far away from the glamour and pressures.
Whoa, how is a plane doing that on the water? Bro, like, I'm not even, like, trying to be, like, at all, bro. Like, how is a plane literally riding on the water? Like, I thought if it hits the water, it goes on the water or it crap. How is it doing it? So cars can ride on water now? Bro, technology going far, bro.
Of the NBA. With the curiosity to explore and now the money to do it, Dele was on his way to living out all of his dreams. Unfortunately for him, the chances of that ever happening would come to a tragic end. You see, on February of 2000, Bison Dele fulfilled a lifelong dream. He learned how to sail. Eventually, he purchased a 55-foot catamaran boat for $650,000, naming it Hakuna Matata, a misspelling of the Swahili phrase for no worries. Bison then began sailing the South Pacific, traveling to the Solomon Islands, Fiji, Australia, and everywhere in between. Towards the end of 2001, he invited his girlfriend, Serena Carlin, to join him on one of his journeys. The two first met in 1997. Although they held a clear affection, Bison's NBA career made a relationship tremendously difficult. To make up for lost time, Brian decided to take Carlin on the adventure of a lifetime. Just 5 months later, the Hakuna Matata was set to depart from Tahiti. From there, the two planned to spend some time in Hawaii. Unfortunately for them, it wouldn't be long before the bliss of sailing the seas would develop into an implausible and fatal disaster. You see, while Dele was finding himself, he still had a shadow following him. One that had been with him his whole life. One that had asked for money ever since he had made it to the NBA. That shadow was Kevin Williams. Unlike his brother, a gifted athlete who was fluent in sports, music, and money, Kevin was a socially awkward and sensitive man whose severe asthma turned him towards books and chess. While Dele had found success, Kevin had struggled. He moved through jobs and towns, often relying on his younger brother's charity. To the public, Kevin was always Brian's brother. Even though Dele had appeared to have found joy after he walked away from the NBA, Kevin still remained attached to Dele's hip. Regardless of their distinctions and personalities, the physical similarities between the two siblings were rather scary. Standing at 6 foot 8 inches and 260 pounds, with a wide jaw and short hair, Kevin looked like a thicker, less handsome version of Bison. Similar to his brother, Kevin also changed his name to Miles DeBoard. He was also a victim of depression. He tried to commit suicide on more than one occasion, was a struggling alcoholic, and took vast amounts of steroids. Due to this, he would visit the hospital on a regular basis, with Bison often paying to cover his medical bills. Despite their resemblance, people always seemed to gravitate towards Bison. Due to this, Miles felt underappreciated. He felt like he lived in the shadow of his brother's success. To top it off, the siblings never had a genuine relationship. Since kids, they were often at odds, always arguing and fighting. For years, the sibling rivalry seemed unavoidable. Thus, when Miles learned that Bison was going on another trip, he decided to invite himself in what would go on to become a failed attempt to repair their spoiled relationship. On July 6, 2002, Miles arrived to the dock unannounced. At the time, he was unemployed, homeless, and it had been more than 4 years since anyone had heard from him. Bison Dele became extremely skeptical. To him, Miles was known as an individual who would only appear when he needed one thing: money. Was that what he wanted? More money? Or was it something else? Regardless, on July 6, 2002, Dele, Carlin, and Bertrand Saldoa, the boat's captain, were joined by DeBoard as they left for Tahiti. The trip was meant to last 2 weeks. Over the next 2 days, 3 satellite phone calls came from the boat. Then, on July 8th, the satellite phones on the boat were turned off. After that, nothing. Eventually, 2 days turned into 5, and 5 into 10. The couple had previously kept regular contact with friends and family. As they began to worry, the families decided to contact local police. 10 days without any attempt at communication? Something had to be wrong. For the first couple of days after the boat's disappearance, there was only confusion. That was until July 20th, when the Hakuna Matata pulled into port in Tahiti with only one person on board. That person was Miles DeBoard. With the other 3 people missing, this added up to one word: tragedy. Investigators immediately suspected foul play, and for months, DeBoard was under suspicion. According to him, Dele appeared to be alive. But what about the other 2, and where exactly was he? Nothing made sense. As investigations continued, days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Then, on September 5th, 2002, the first clue. All the way in Phoenix, Arizona, a man who claimed to be Bison Dele possessed his passport and checkbook, attempted to purchase $152,000 worth of gold. The bank immediately notified Dele's executive assistant, who in return contacted the Phoenix Police Department. This proved to be an unusual activity, considering DeLay had never written out a check in over 5 years. Not to mention, Bison was supposedly still on his trip in Tahiti. Something just wasn't adding up.
Bison DeLay is feared dead. He was last seen in Tahiti aboard a 55-foot catamaran called Hakuna Matata.
Today, the 33-year-old former star is missing and at the center of a manhunt that stretches from the United States to Tahiti. DeLay has disappeared along with his girlfriend Serena Carlin. The couple has not been heard from in weeks.
DeLay's assistant decided to call the phone number attached to the order. To his surprise, he discovered the phone belonged to Miles. After it was learned that Miles had been impersonating his brother, police were contacted and a sting operation was organized. When DeBoard came in to collect the gold, he would immediately be arrested. After 5 hours of intense interrogation, he would admit that although he had forged his brother's signature on bank documents and had used DeLay's passport, he was buying the gold on behalf of him. Since DeLay couldn't be reached to disprove this, and with little to no evidence against him, the Phoenix PD were forced to release him, a crucial mistake that FBI investigators would later regret. 2 days later, reports had come back from Tahiti. The boat had been found. Authorities discovered the Hakuna Matata, which had been registered under another name, off the coast of Tahiti with its nameplate removed and some possible bullet holes. Suspicions grew that DeBoard killed the other passengers. These fears would come to fruition after it was learned that DeBoard left his mother a voicemail claiming he would never hurt DeLay and that he could never survive prison. Following this, DeBoard fled for Mexico, a state unlike California that did not have the death penalty. During his trip to Mexico, DeBoard's girlfriend revealed that he began sharing information in regards to what truly happened. According to Miles, Bison and him got into a heated altercation, which resulted in a fight. During the struggle, in an attempt to separate the two, Serena had accidentally been struck in the face with a punch from DeLay. Her head thumped against a steel part of the boat, killing her instantly. The captain of the boat wanted to report the death to the authorities. When Bison learned of the captain's intentions, he decided to kill him by hitting him on the head with a wrench. Out of self-defense and fearing for his own life, Miles claimed he ran into the cabin, grabbed a gun, and shot Bison to death. Scared and with no thought of any consequences for his actions, he admitted to dumping the 3 bodies overboard using bodybuilding weights. After hearing his version of the story, Miles' girlfriend reported it to the police, and an international manhunt was declared. Despite his confession, authorities were certain DeBoard's version was not true. The explanation that he gave forensically didn't make sense. If Bison had indeed struck Serena in the head and impaled her skull against the side of the boat, wouldn't there have been evidence of blood? According to him, Bison also struck the captain in the head with a wrench. If that was the case, where was the wrench? As investigators searched the boat, there was no indication that proved his side of the story. In fact, FBI agents would declare that at the original crime scene, there was no sign of blood on the boat whatsoever, not a single drop. To top this off, the boat still had its original dock and flooring intact, meaning it hadn't been changed to hide any potential evidence. The fact of the matter is, to this day, no one knows. Officially, the case remains open, but there are no new leads. The only version of events the FBI got on record was DeBoard's, but authorities were never able to find him. That was until the morning of September 15, 2002. At 11:30 a.m., Mexican police would find the body of a large man on the beach not far from the U.S. border, wearing nothing but a pair of white socks. The man would immediately be taken to a nearby hospital. He had no reflexes, and his pupils were non-responsive. Injuries on his body had suggested that he had not been moving for quite some time. 4 days later, fingerprints determined that the unidentified patient was none other than 35-year-old Miles DeBoard. The official diagnosis revealed that Miles had suffered from major brain damage from what appeared to be an insulin overdose. By the time they had found him, he had slipped into a coma and was put on life support. Then, on September 26, 2002, at approximately 10 a.m., he was taken off life support. The following day, Miles DeBoard, the only person with first-hand knowledge about the case, was pronounced dead, along with the details of what happened on that boat. To this day, many have their own theories. After all, Stories are about perspective. Yet, in stories such as this one, it all comes down to what one wants to believe. Some believe that DeBoer killed his brother to steal away Serena, while others imagine Dele used this as a means of fading away, a disappearing act that would allow for him to restart his life. Realistically speaking, considering the lack of blood, FBI investigators believe that Miles forced his brother and the other occupants of the boat into the water at gunpoint, hundreds of miles from land, in the deep, shark-inhabited waters of Tahiti. No matter the circumstances, given that they were likely dumped in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, the bodies of Bison Dele and friends were never found. Thus, they were presumed dead as victims of a likely murder. While many questions continue to be raised about what truly happened, the truth is that jealousy and resentment may have played a role. It has been more than 17 years since the NBA player's disappearance. Many have forgotten. Others prefer not to speak. Dig deeper though, and you can find those who remember, not just what happened, but what came before. He was once the king of the court. He was once an NBA player. He was once Brian Williams. He was once Bison Dele. But in the end, with a life packed with curious behaviors, unusual decisions, stressed relationships, and psychological disturbance, it's not far-fetched to suggest that the vanishing of Bison Dele, along with his puzzling career, is one of the most bizarre tales in NBA history.
Yeah, man, it's just, that's sad, bro. This is just, bro. It's just sad, bro. Like, what do you guys think really happened? You know what I'm saying? I think I'm leaning on that story, that last story he said, where I felt like, you know what I'm saying, they you know, they forced him off the boat, you know, because that's the one that seems like it makes the most sense. But they're talking about they don't even know what happened, man. But bro, that's just crazy. That's just why it's always just important. Make sure you just always watch who's around you. You know, one thing I can say is that, like, if he said he hadn't seen his brother or something like 4 or 5 years and everything, and he was supposedly like homeless, like, he shouldn't have even been able to have access to them. He shouldn't have been able to get on the boat. They said that he like sneaked on the boat. Like, if there's a guest on the boat, we need to check before the boat leaves. You know what I'm saying? Like, anything. Like, if anywhere I go, like somebody comes in and you know what I'm saying, where you're about to take off, you gotta check who's around. You know what I'm saying? And he shouldn't have even been around him. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, it's just an example. He probably took advantage of his kindness and everything like that. And man, bro, this was sad, bro. But hey, man, you know, R.I.P. You know, I believe his name was Daylight that they was saying, and his girl, and then, you know, the guy on that the pilot, the boat, and everything like that. It's just a very, very, very sad story. It's the first time I ever heard about this. You know what I'm saying? I've never, you know, heard about an NBA player before. He had a pretty nice and decent career and everything like that, even though he battled with long-term mental issues. You know, and that's also another important thing, everybody. Make sure you're always, like, if you're feeling like you're going through something, even if you're that type where it's hard for you to talk to somebody, I feel it. You want to be solo dolo, like, I feel it. You know, sometimes you just gotta, you know, put that pride aside just one time. Just try it one time and see what happens, you know. And you know, you never know, it could make a difference. And even with the people that if you're seeing somebody that's close to you, you know, battling something mental wise and everything like that, you know what I'm saying, speak to them, say something, you know what I'm saying. Now, you know, you don't have to, you know, go all out, because at the end of the day, you're not, you know, certified mental therapist and everything. Not everybody is and everything. We get that. But, you know, say something, you know, and it can always, you know, make a difference and change and impact in someone's life. As usual, man, comment down below as your react to next, man, on the road to 3 million.